Welcome to the next chapter, Chapter 9, Section 2, Unit 6, Goa Struggle for Freedom. Students, this chapter is included in your second term portion. Students, as you all know, Goa came under the Portuguese rule in the year 1510 when Afonso the Albuquerque had acquired its control from Adil Shah of Bijapur. Since then, Goans has always been struggling to free themselves from the Portuguese rule, and a number of revolts which took place in different parts of Goa are testimony of this discontent. Some of the famous revolts which had taken place were the Kunkolam Revolt in 1583, the Pinto Revolt in 1787, and the Rani Revolt from 1852 to 1912. But these revolts were unsuccessful because they lacked broad and active support. They were localized in nature. The people severely felt the Portuguese repression during the days of Salazar rule, who was a dictator of Portugal. Dictatorship of Dr. Salazar. The establishment of Dr. Salazar dictatorship in Portugal was a period of repression in Goa. He had implemented the Acto Colonial Act in Goa, by which the civil liberties of people were abolished, the censorship of press was there, and the newspapers coming from other parts of India were censored. Moreover, all the political parties were banned except for Unitio Nacional. Dr. Salazar left no stone unturned to see that he had firm control over the activities in Goa. His rule had led to the establishment of a number of political organizations in Goa and outside Goa. Some of the early political organizations. First, Goa Congress Committee. It was established by Dr. Tristan Braganza Cunha to free Goa from the Portuguese rule and to integrate Goa with Mother India. He was joined by his two nieces, namely Berta de Menezes Braganza and Dr. Beatriz de Menezes Braganza. The GCC was the first political organization which made the people in Goa aware of the nature of political rule of the Portuguese and of their civil liberties. The GCC took part in civil disobedience movement in 1930. This participation created strong feelings of nationalism among the people. Thus, Dr. T.B. Cunha was called as the father of Goa's freedom movement. Second, Gomantak Praja Mandal. This was founded in Mumbai by Dr. Giuliano Menezes, Dr. Advocate Luis Mendes, Joaquim Dias, and Zoquito de Souza. Its ideological meanings were based on the philosophy of Luis de Menezes Braganza. It published a newspaper, Gomantak in English and Romi Konkani. Gomantakya Tarun Sangh. This organization was set up in Margaon under the leadership of Sham Rao Madgaikar, who inspired by the function of GCC. It aimed to open discussions on social and political issues. It organized a Swayam Sevak Dal and opened a library and also published a Marathi periodical called Uttejan. Some of its leaders like P.P. Shirodkar and Suryakant Naik fearlessly celebrated Independence Day with slogans Vande Mataram at Karmali. Fourth, Goa Seva Sangh. This political organization was founded by Purushottam Kakodkar in 1445. This organization was inspired by Gandhian philosophy and followed its principles of Satyagraha and Swadeshi. They advocated the spinning of cloth on charkha. They secretly observed national days and mobilized support for the movement in villages Vinayak Mayekar and Nilkant Karapurkar were also actively involved in these operations. Besides this organization, there were some other organizations like Goa Youth League, Vidyarthi Congress and Rashtriya Seva Dal, which had also carried out the task of fanning the flame of nationalism among the people. The impact of Indian freedom struggle. Many of the Govans who were in Mumbai had actively participated in India's freedom struggle. In 1942, Peter Alvarez and Vishwanath Lavande had participated in Quit India movement. After this movement, the Govans in Mumbai had drafted a manifesto wherein they had urged the Portuguese government in Portugal to grant civil liberties to Goa, but it did not yield any positive result. The movement of 1946. The liberation movement had gained momentum in 1940s when India's freedom struggle was in its last phase. The Portuguese government had continued with the policy of repression by denying civil liberties to people. It was at this time that Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia had come to Goa for rest on the invitation of his friend, Dr. Giuliano Menezes. He stayed at Asolna, where he got a chance to interact with the leaders when they met him. Dr. Lohia was a socialist leader and was an active leader in Quit India movement. He advised the people to launch a massive movement for civil liberties against the Portuguese rule. On 18 June 1946, Dr. Lohia arrived at the railway station in Margao, where he was greeted with slogans Jai Hind. He then arrived at the open spaces near municipal building in Margao to address the public meeting that was convened to challenge the ban on civil liberties. But as soon as he started his speech, he was arrested and taken to the Margao police station. The people then flocked in large numbers at the police station, shouting slogans. The next day, Dr. Lohia was taken to Kollam and released. In this movement, women also participated, and Vatsala Kirtani was the first Goan woman to be arrested for raising the slogan of Jai Hind. 18 June was later commemorated as Goa Revolution Day, and 18 June Road in Panjim is the remembrance of this event. You must have all seen this road. In September 1946, Dr. Lohia returned to Goa, but he was arrested as soon as he reached Kollam and then imprisoned and sent to Agwad jail for 10 days, after which he was released and then sent to the borders of Goa. Within Goa, the movement slowly died due to the repressive measures of the Portuguese government. The leaders like T.B. Kuna and Purushottam Kakodkar were arrested and deported to Portugal. T.B. Kuna was deported to Portugal, T.P. Shirodkar was deported to Angola, and Divakar Kakodkar to Cabo Verde. Dr. Lohia continued a movement from Belgaum on the advice of Mahatma Gandhi. National Congress Goa. It was established in Londa near Belgaum with Dr. Ram Hegde as its president. It had leaders like Peter Alvarez, Dr. Pundlik Gaitonde, Mark Fernandez, Anthony de Souza, and others. It strongly believed in the principle of Satyagraha. Next, Azad Ko Mantak Dal. At the session of National Congress, a section of members formed the Azad Ko Mantak Dal to carry out armed struggle against the Portuguese rule. Some of its active members were Vishwanath Lavande, Prabhakar Sinari Mapari, Rog Santan Fernandez, and Mohan Ranade. Goa Vimochan Samiti. It was established in 1954 by the only objective of liberating Goa from the Portuguese rule. Its headquarters were in Pune. It conducted mass meetings all over India. People from different parts offered financial and moral support for this movement. Goa Action Committee. Goa Action Committee was formed in 1953 in Bombay under the chairmanship of T.B. Kuna to bring Goan nationalists and chalk out a definite program. Satyagraha of 1954. On 15 August 1954, the National Congress Goa launched its first Satyagraha in Goa under the leadership of three leaders, Mark Fernandez, Alfred Afonso, and Anthony de Souza. Around 4,000 to 6,000 Satyagrahis were expected to participate. Thus, the Portuguese sealed the borders, blasted the breaches, ordered to shoot at sight. They suspended the rail and ferry services and also claimed a curfew in Goa. But still, a large number of Satyagrahis managed to enter Goa from different sides. Alfred Afonso hoisted the Indian flag at Tiracol on the Goa border, but the Portuguese managed to recover the fort within 24 hours. This was followed by the Satyagrahas in the different parts of Goa. The next part, Satyagraha of 1955. The next year, on 15 August 1955, the second Satyagraha was organized by Goa Vimochan Samiti. Around 4,000 Satyagrahis from Kashmir, Punjab, Bengal, Gujarat, Karnataka and Maharashtra crossed the borders on 15 August 1955. In all, 32 Indians Satyagrahis were shot dead, including Karnal Singh from Punjab. Under the leadership of Mohan Ranade, a number of attacks were organized on the police station by Azad Gomantak Dal. Since it was a militant organization, the members attacked the police station at Mapsa, clashed with the police soldiers at Pamburpa, raided the Kunkolim outpost, disrupted the traffic and cut the telephone wires. During the attacks on Betim police station, Mohan Ranade was wounded and later tried and sentenced to 26 years of imprisonment and was deported to Portugal. This is the picture of Karnal Singh from Punjab, who laid his life for the freedom of India. In this Satyagraha, a large number of women had also actively participated. Some of them were Sindhutai Deshpande, Sudatai Joshi, Irene Heredia, Maria Callicita, Joaquina Araujo. They all defied the Portuguese orders and were ready to face any consequences. Come to the last part of this chapter, Operation Vijay. On 11 December 1961, V.K. Krishna Menon, who was India's defense minister, decided to use military force to liberate Goa from Portuguese rule. This military operation was called as Operation Vijay and was placed under the command of General Chaudhry and directed by Major K.P. General Candid. Accordingly, Indian troops were dispatched to Belgaum, Vapi and Una and were instructed to attack Goa, Daman and Diu. On 12 December, the two main routes that connected Goa to India were sealed to help the movement of Indian Army. The Indian Army entered from north, east and south. On 19 December 1961, the Indian troops arrived at Panjim from Betim side. They hardly faced any resistance from the Portuguese soldiers. By 10 a.m., Major General Candid and K.P. Candid hoisted the Indian flag. At around 4:30 p.m. on the same day, Indian soldiers captured Mormugaon. In the meanwhile, soldiers who had occupied Kangon had reached Margao and captured all the government buildings. On the same day, the Portuguese governor, General Vassallo E. Silva, handed over the political power to the Indian government by signing the Instrument of Surrender. Thus, Goa was liberated on 19 December 1961. With this, we come to the end of the chapter. Thank